Welcome to day 2 of 2021 Michigan Works Annual Conference. I'm Charlie Mahoney, Chair of the Michigan Works Association's Board of Directors, and we are so glad you're able to join us again today. As last year's Volunteer of the Year Award winner, it is my very special honor to present this year's Volunteer of the Year Award to Edith Suttles. Edith is receiving this award in honor of her dedication to the growth and promotion of Michigan. The Michigan Works. Edith's passion and dedication to serving her local Michigan Works on the Workforce Development Board, Capital Area Michigan Works, she's coupled with her tireless assistance and encouragement of young people in her community makes her the perfect candidate for this year's award. Edith served Waverly School Board for 20 years, as well as on the board of the Junior League of Lansing, the Capital Area Michigan Works Workforce Development Board, and in various iterations of the Camway Career Advisory Council. She's a long-standing member of the Camway Board and its Career and Education Advisory Council, CEAC. Her passion to serve as a voice for youth and education has been at the forefront of all of her efforts. She's been a tireless supporter of her workforce board, the T3 Council, and the Michigan Works agencies as a whole. She's one of the first members to volunteer to help with any new project. She consistently gives her time to provide input and feedback, and she continually supports the agency and her board peers through her direction and guidance. Congratulations to you, Edith, on this year's Volunteer of the Year Award.
I bring greetings to all of you who are attending the annual Michigan Works Conference. To the Board of Directors of the Michigan Works Association, former Chief Executive Officer Luann Dunsford, and newly appointed Chief Executive Officer Ryan Hunt, I would like to thank you for the honor of being selected as the 2021 Michigan Work Association's Volunteer of the Year. I would also like to thank the Capital Area Michigan Works Chief Executive Officer, Kerry and her team for recommending me for this honor. And I would be remiss if I didn't also say thank you to my husband Donald and my daughters Chrisetta and Meredith for being my encouraging and supportive team throughout all the years of my volunteer work. During the time that I have served on the Michigan Works Development Board, I have strived to be a voice at the table representing the interest of children, parents, teachers, the business community, and the clients who walk through the doors of the service centers in the Lansing region. I started my service on the CAMWA board as an alternate for my husband, who had been a longtime member of the board of directors. I was an elected member of the Waverly Community Schools Board of Education at the time and was concerned when it seemed that there was an adversarial relationship between the business and school communities. It was clear to me that educators and business leaders had the same goals, which was making sure that students were trained and prepared to enter the workforce, ready to contribute to the economic growth and well-being of the community. To achieve that shared goal, we all needed to be working together. I said at a Workforce Development Board meeting that business and schools should be partners, not adversaries, and before the next board meeting, I had been asked to take a seat at the board table in my own right. Since the moment in 1991 that took place, I have worked with some of the most committed, dedicated people, both professional and volunteers, to provide services and opportunities for everyone who walks through the doors of the Capital Area Michigan Works Service Center. As a high school student, on January 21st, 1961, I heard President John F. Kennedy challenge the youth of America in his inaugural speech. The words that I remembered said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." Those words have echoed through my heart throughout my life as I've tried to be of service to my family, my church, my community, and organizations like the Michigan Works Association that provide services through people throughout the state. I am honored and I am grateful to be recognized as the association's 2021 Michigan Works Association Volunteer of the Year. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Congratulations again to our Volunteer of the Year, Edith Suttles. I am now honored to introduce a special message from my colleague from the state of Michigan, Stephanie Beckhorn. Stephanie is the Director of the Office of Employment and Training for the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. In this role, she works directly with federal, state, and local partners to provide connections, expertise, and innovative solutions to drive continued business growth, build vibrant communities, and attract and retain key talent to fill Michigan's vast pipeline of opportunities. Drawing upon her nearly 20 years of experience in workforce and economic development, she develops policies that align with and support the state's workforce development strategies, and she also actively engages internal and external stakeholders to ensure policy and service delivery effectively address the needs of our customers. Please help me welcome Stephanie Beckhorn.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Beckhorn, Director of the Office of Employment and Training with the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be with you at your annual conference and to be gathering successfully in a virtual space for the second year in a row. Just as we have since the start of the pandemic, the Michigan Works system and the state of Michigan continue to serve our customers remotely and work together to overcome the unique challenges of the past 18 months. Throughout this time, our commitment to providing ongoing and consistent support to individuals who need our services has not wavered. While the pandemic shifted how we serve our customers, it did not impact our focus on serving Michigan's most vulnerable populations. Over the past few months, we have placed a lot of emphasis on the numerous things we do to support employers, whether that be addressing their immediate workforce needs or helping them plan for long-term opportunities. You are a critical component of that employer engagement work, which has included participating in webinars, services and programs to support employers, as well as consistently being touted as resources on our Back to Work employer resource website and for our employer engagement team as they triage the needs of employers. If you haven't already, please check out michigan.gov/back to work for more information about how LEO is supporting employers today and beyond. Throughout 2021, we worked closely with you and other host organizations to produce virtual job fairs for job seekers looking for their first job, next job, or another job. To date in 2021, we have been able to host more than 70 virtual job fairs across the state. We've seen more than 4,700 job seekers and more than 1,500 employers participate in these events. We have more events scheduled throughout the fall, and we're working to ensure we have a platform in place to host these events for the foreseeable future. Additionally, you've been right there with us as we've gone after and received more than $63 million in federal grants since last year's conference to support development and expansion efforts targeting individuals, including statewide apprenticeship expansion, as we look to create more than 5,600 apprentices, the Michigan Learning and Education Advancement Program, or MyLEAP, supporting individuals moving from education or training programs to good-paying, high-skill jobs, and dislocated workers to address the health and economic effects of widespread opioid use, addiction, and overdose. I want to thank you for your continued collaboration as we strive to provide equity and access for all, particularly through the services of the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons and Michigan Rehabilitation Services. Thank you for your partnership in ensuring all Michiganders have access to those resources, including providing a safe space for them to operate in spaces where we are co-located. Every fall, I look forward to the Michigan Works Conference, as it gives my staff and I the opportunity to connect with so many of you, our workforce development colleagues and partners from across the state. The Office of Employment and Training continues to work to promote a flexible, innovative, and effective workforce system by developing customized workforce solutions for businesses and individuals, including those with disabilities. Thank you for your continued partnership and dedication to serving individuals and employers in our great state. I hope you enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Stephanie. We sincerely appreciate the partnership and support from you and the entire LEO team. It is now my pleasure to introduce Brent Parton, Senior Advisor for Workforce at the U.S. Department of Labor, where he advises leadership on a range of workforce issues. Before joining USDOL, Brent was the Deputy Director of the Center on Education and Labor at New America, where his work was focused on federal, state, and local workforce policies. He has over a decade of experience working on workforce at the federal and state level, including during his previous time at the Department of Labor, as well as the National Governors Association Center for Best Practices. Brent also worked in the education sector of the World Bank, led a startup advocacy organization focused on health policy, and taught English in China. Today, Brent will be providing us with an update on the U.S. Department of Labor. It is now my honor and pleasure to introduce Brent Parton.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brent Parton, the Senior Policy Advisor for Workforce Development at the U.S. Department of Labor. I want to thank you for the opportunity to join you today, but I also want to start by thanking you for all the work you do. The workforce system has been on the front lines of the pandemic's impact on American workers and communities, and despite historic challenges, you all have stepped up. We know that this work has just begun. As workforce leaders, we know that our workforce boards are partners that are essential in supporting an equitable recovery. That's why I just want to spend a few minutes with you today, sharing a bit about how the Biden-Harris administration is taking steps to support your efforts on the ground. First and foremost, we have to recognize that even before the pandemic, the labor market was undergoing significant change. Too many Americans, especially women and communities of color, lost their jobs as the result of the pandemic, and who are now the ones who are most at risk in an uneven recovery. Expanding long-growing opportunity, income, and wealth gaps for Americans with and without a college degree has been a trend that we have struggled to reverse. And we have seen historic disruptions over the past year plus to school and work that are threatening the economic prospects for young Americans that we know we have to reconnect to both education and training pathways, as well as the labor market as a whole. These changes, coupled with the need to respond to the devastating impacts that are still taking place in our communities due to COVID-19, are going to require historic investment and transformative solutions. In the Biden-Harris administration and at the U.S. Department of Labor, on behalf of Secretary Walsh and all of our workforce development efforts, we are focusing on several key themes. Number one, quality jobs. We want to ensure that this recovery is one that is not just about getting people back to work, but to connecting them with good jobs in critical industry sectors that can offer family-sustaining wages, benefits, and a trajectory for career advancement. We're also putting equity at the center of everything we do. Equity to us is about combating the barriers to opportunity so that all Americans have a fair shot to participate, whether that's transportation, childcare, or working with our employer partners to build more diverse and inclusive workforces. Equity is at the center of our workforce development agenda. Number three, and something you all know well in the work that you do on the ground, is industry partnerships. We know that high quality job training and workforce development is about close partnerships with industry, ensuring that they can partner with us to be co-producers and not just the consumers of talent. And last but not least is system alignment. We know you, where you sit in our workforce boards, have shown the way on innovation in this space, in bringing together and finding synergies across various workforce development programs, education, economic development, and human services. We know that you've figured out how to braid and use resources to best support workers in industry and employers in your communities. We want to make sure system alignment is something that we can scale and support at the federal level. In addition to these principles, or at least I should say to bring them to life, we are looking at several critical investments. The president is committed to workforce development, has proposed a historic $100 billion investment as part of the Build Back Better agenda in workforce development over the next 10 years. This includes scaling what works, strategies that you've led on the ground, that we've seen happen in Michigan, in trying to make them more the norm and ensuring that you have the support and resources you need to best serve both workers and employers in your communities. This includes doubling down on sector-based training and sector partnerships. The Build Back Better agenda includes $20 billion for sector training, a proven workforce development strategy that aligns workforce and economic development and brings together multiple employers to build out inclusive career pathways for workers. Second, we are putting historic investments into what we are calling comprehensive and career services. Access to education and training and access to a job is not just enough. How can we ensure that you have the supports and the resources you need to overcome barriers, again, that might range from childcare to transportation to basic skills and education? Ensuring people have those wraparound supports and a steady set of funding to support them is critical to the success of our workforce development programs, especially job training. Number three, we're going after a major expansion in the registered apprenticeship system, proposing $10 billion over the next 10 years to make the registered apprenticeship system more diverse in terms of the individuals that participate as apprentices, but the industries that apprenticeships are available within. Michigan has been a critical leader on apprenticeship really since the beginning of the apprenticeship system. We've also seen critical innovations by the workforce boards in the state of Michigan, helping serve as intermediaries, work with local employers to build out pathways. We want to see more of this. We want to ensure our workforce partners have the resources they need to support it. Lastly, we are also revisiting the TACT investment, proposing historic investment in the workforce development capabilities of our community colleges, but at the same time, ensuring that they are working in partnership with our workforce boards, with our K-12 districts to build out career pathways that lead to good quality jobs in every community. To help advance, in addition to these investments themselves, we're also calling on Congress to reauthorize the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Secretary Walsh was able to testify and speak to what our priorities are, but expanding access to quality training and the training mission of the workforce development system is key. Improving data transparency and accountability to promote more equitable workforce outcomes. We want to ensure that you, as well as policymakers, of course, have the data they have to best serve local job seekers, employers, as well as ensure that we're meeting key goals in terms of connecting underrepresented populations to opportunities. And lastly, we certainly want to use WIOA reauthorization as a way to reach and deliver workers and better align our systems. And this is an area, again, where you've shown innovation that we want to be scaled. Whether that's promoting innovations in service delivery, such as virtual services that many of us were forced to do, but also working with key community partners from libraries to K-12 districts to build out career pathways and ensure employers have access to the talent they need. The last thing I want to say is that we are not waiting. In addition to the Build Back Better proposed investments that we hope Congress acts on soon, and the reauthorization of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, between April and June, we've invested over $400 million in proven workforce strategies through grants and initiatives that support youth employment, apprenticeship equity and expansion, including state apprenticeship grants, as well as workforce data modernization and supporting the reentry of returning citizens to get a second chance and connect to a quality job upon release. Bringing all of these investments and principles to life demands partnership with you, and we need your continued partnership to make it happen. It is critical, not only for us as administration, but at the department and the Employment and Training Administration in particular, to have an open dialogue with our workforce board partners on the ground, and particularly folks in states like Michigan that have been pushing the bounds of what innovation can look like and what's needed in our communities to help them in an equitable recovery. So in addition to your continued partnership, we ask for you to also let us know, keep in touch, talk to us about the things that we're trying to move forward, and give us ideas about things that are working locally in your communities that we can build into these investments. It's critical we have an open dialogue with you to actually ensure that we can give life to the modern workforce system that we're all investing in and looking to build. Thank you so much for the time today, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today, Brent. It is so important for us to know what is happening on the national level with the Department of Labor, and we will continue to work with the US DOL regionally to assist in any way we can with important issues on the national level. It is now my honor to introduce our state workforce development panel discussion entitled All Hands on Deck, the state's comprehensive approach to talent and economic development, facilitated by Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity Director Susan Corbin. We will now hear about the state's comprehensive programs and services aimed at building a better Michigan from panel members Stephanie Beckhorn, Deputy Director of LEO's Office of Employment and Training, Kerry Ebersole, Deputy Director of LEO's Office of 60 by 30, Josh Hunt, Chief Business Development Officer and Executive Vice President with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and Kim Trent, Deputy Director of LEO's Prosperity Division. Susan?
Thank you. Thanks for that introduction. And I just wanted to thank the Michigan Works Association and all of the Michigan Works agencies for inviting us today for this panel discussion. I'm excited to help facilitate the discussion today. And Ryan has introduced, all of the members from LEO and MEDC who will be here today. Before we get into the panel discussion, I did want to walk through the state's talent agenda. So first, we at LEO want to share our philosophy that economic development and workforce development must go hand in hand. We know we cannot succeed at one without succeeding at the other. To have strong business growth, we need skilled workers to help manufacture the products or provide the services. To create better jobs, we have to have strong employers that provide good pay and benefits that are competitive in the marketplace. And it's also important to note that community development is also key. Skilled workers want vibrant communities to live in, and our department aspires to create a strong foundation for communities to grow by making historic investments in broadband, housing, and other critical infrastructure. LEO is investing in the creation of vibrant places with rich amenities to attract and retain skilled talent. But here is what we have found so far. Michigan has three primary structural labor force challenges. We have too many low-wage jobs and too many working families can't make ends meet. And the good jobs we have are not equitably distributed. We don't have enough workers. Our unemployment rate is better than the national average, but our workforce participation rate is worse. We need more good jobs to entice people back into the workforce and to make sure that folks who have a job aren't working for poverty wages. Also, as we look to the future, while the nation's population and labor force is poised for growth, Michigan's is not. In fact, it's predicted that Michigan is facing a declining population by 2030. We don't have enough skilled workers. The governor's 60 by 30 programs are a great start, but we need more workers with 4-year degrees if we're going to attract good, high-paying jobs. In order to address these challenges head-on, to grow our labor force, to grow household incomes, and to lift families out of working poverty, we have 4 major strategies. Grow the middle class by removing barriers to employment. We're prioritizing breaking down barriers, including housing, transportation, healthcare, childcare, language, and placement. Promote 60 by 30 programs as a path to meet the demand for talent. In order to address talent shortages in current and future growth sectors in every region of the state, we're providing support for education, training, on-ramps, and certifications that make sustaining wages more attainable. create better jobs that provide economic mobility. We intend for Michigan to become the benchmark of economic development by supporting the creation of good and promising jobs that make Michigan's economy more resilient. We intend to have attractive jobs for our newly credentialed workforce. And finally, align economic development and workforce development goals, strategies, and tactics. As a person who has served the state for many years, I've seen the state attempt economic development and workforce development collaboration before. I'm here to tell you that our new approach is the strongest and most comprehensive collaboration effort yet. We're strategizing together, we're executing on projects together, and we are clear on the goals that we want to achieve together. To implement these strategies, we have a number of current programs, services, and initiatives. To address low-wage jobs and stagnant wage growth, we're providing pathways to associate's degrees and industry-recognized credentials that are proven to raise wages through the governor's 60 by 30 initiative. We're focusing on job creation incentives, creating more jobs that have wages and benefits that lift families above the ALICE rate or provide the career pathway to do so in the coming years. We're prioritizing wage growth and supporting the ALICE population in our upcoming Going Pro application. To address employment and wage gaps, we're prioritizing closing equity gaps when administering programs. We have new apprenticeship grant programs that support historically underserved populations, and we're working hard to implement the Poverty Task Force's recommendations. To address Michigan's shrinking workforce, employment and training is trying to provide smoother entry points for young people, while also providing services to older workers or people who have fallen out of the labor force to help them re-enter. To address the supply-demand mismatch that is fueled by the lack of post-secondary credentials, we are placing an emphasis on meaningful credentials in all of our training programs. And we have created new programs that emphasize the connection between workforce development and economic development, thanks to our MEDC team for their hard work to stand up the Regional Talent Innovation Grant Program. As you know, we're also proposing $722 million in investments in our state's skilled workforce as a way to help grow our middle class. We want to build on the success of the governor's signature 60 by 30 programs to enhance and expand Michigan Reconnect and Future for Frontliners and make them even more successful. We also want to boost apprenticeships and fund innovative new programs to make sure that our community colleges are graduating students with the right skills and certificates to meet employer needs. We also have investments in adult education and programs for returning citizens so we can get more of our state's population into the workforce and into higher wage jobs. And we want to expand and improve Going Pro so that we continue to be a partner to employers in workforce training and education. We are proposing an additional $100 million to support manufacturers to retool, but also to retrain their workforce at the same time to make a successful transition to Industry 4.0. Finally, we're proposing $11 million to support talent attraction and retention by bolstering our capacity for data analysis and regional collaboration while scaling the promising STEM Forward program. Overall, this is a package of investments that is designed to address many of the critical challenges the state is facing. It's a comprehensive proposal that, if funded, will ensure that we emerge from the COVID pandemic stronger than when we entered it. I look forward to our continued collaboration as we move forward. And with that, I welcome my colleagues to join me for our panel discussion, and I will dive right into the questions. So I've talked about much of the work that we are doing around talent, but I wanted to ask Kerry a little bit about the Workforce Development Board and ask her to tell us how the Workforce Development Board is supporting all of these activities.
Thank you, Director Corbin, and happy to be with you all today. Yes, our State Workforce Board is active and I'm sure everyone's aware, but the governor appoints this board. Our focus is to advise the governor and the team at Leo as it relates to workforce development systems, improvements, and modifications to our 4-year plan that gets submitted to the Fed. So that is our primary role and purpose. This year, we have been, of course, very focused on how do we build out and focus that 60 by 30 program, and what are the needs to success to build out our talent here in the state of Michigan. I just want to mention, I think it's an incredible time for us all to be working in this issue area. When you think about Brent Parton's comments from DOL and the opportunities that lie ahead of us with additional federal investment, as Director Corbin outlined with the ARP dollars, we need to attract, retain, create additional educational pathways, work on those wraparound services, and of course, prepare and cultivate our talent that may be in our K-12 system now to not only stay in the state, but be prepared for in-demand careers. So it's an exciting time, exciting to be with you all. And I'll kick it back over to Director Corbin for the next question.
Thanks, Kerry. And yeah, you touched on something. I thought all of Brent's remarks this morning totally aligned with so much of the work that we're doing here in Michigan. And it's exciting to have a strong federal partnership moving us forward. Josh, I wanted to ask you, are there some innovative programs that are happening at the MEDC that our partners in the Michigan Works agencies might not be aware of?
Yeah, well, thank you, Director, and thank you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to be with all of you today. And we hit on this a little bit as Director Corbin was talking, and Kerry did as well, that first and foremost, the partnership across workforce development and economic development right now is stronger than it's been in my 15 years that we're here. And while that's not a direct answer to the question, I think that's the first thing that we need to focus on, is that this is a team sport of all the Michigan Works agencies, the Michigan Works Association, Leo, MEDC, and the rest of the administration all coming together to make sure that we're providing the best economic climate for our talented workforce in the state. At the MEDC, what we work on most beyond those partnerships is making sure that we're developing a pipeline of talent for our key industries in the state. And one of those key industries is the future of technology, and making sure that our great engineering talent and other technical talent that's coming out of our universities is staying in Michigan. So earlier this year, we launched the My STEM Forward program in partnership with Ann Arbor Spark. And what this program does is it builds off of a highly successful program that Ann Arbor Spark was running within Washtenaw County, and have now taken it to all 83 counties of the state. And what this does is it provides 50% of the payment for an internship, for a 3-month internship with small Michigan technology companies to connect our talented workforce, for them to be able to see that their future career opportunities can be right here in Michigan. And then for these small technology companies to recognize that they can find the talent that they have right here in Michigan, and making sure that the best way for us to grow our talent here in the state is to keep the great university talent and great talent that we have coming out of our schools here in Michigan, so that we have the technical talent needed for the future in-demand jobs.
Thanks, Josh. Next, I want to ask Kim Trent a question from a prosperity lens. Why do you think that the opportunities we have with our American Plan rescue plan proposals have the potential for being transformational?
Thank you so much, Susan. You know, the thing, as I've been working with the Poverty Task Force, I've had an opportunity to talk to stakeholders all over the state. And I will say, there are a number of factors, and we know in Leo every day we're working with Kerry's operation, certainly with everything that Susan does every day, and with MEDC and other elements of Leo. We are working to ensure that we have a very strong workforce, that we have talent, that we are able to retain and train workers so that they have the very best opportunities for the jobs of the future. But I also want to point out that one of the most exciting proposals for me, as someone who has talked to stakeholders all over the state and has heard over and over again how affordable housing is one of the most important or one of the most kind of daunting gaps that we have in our state. And one of the proposals that I'm most excited about is $100 million for our Housing and Community Development Fund. We really think that can be transformational. It's an opportunity for a fund that has not been funded in many, many years to really, it's flexible, it's nimble enough, it will allow for innovation. It has it will have impact because it's not just about building new, it's about renovating, it's about offering assistance to the people who need it most through down payment assistance and so many other vehicles. I really think there are a lot of really great proposals, but that's the one that I think when I talk to people who are stakeholders in the poverty community, they are most excited about the idea of having that $100 million opportunity to expand affordable housing options in our state.
Thank you, Kim. And absolutely. I just want to echo that. When we're out traveling the state, meeting with local economic development leaders, they very clearly say that for them, housing has become one of the top economic development issues. And I'm sure our Michigan Works partners are hearing the same thing on the ground as well. And we are, working with MISTA now. MISTA is working on a statewide housing survey, the first survey that they've done in many years. So stay tuned for that housing survey and seeing the results of that in the coming months. Stephanie, I also wanted to ask you about the American Rescue Plan proposals. Obviously, the American Rescue Plan resources are going to have a large impact on our employment and training efforts that we administer. What do you see as the biggest takeaway from this once-generation investment?
Yeah, certainly. And good morning, everyone. Excuse me. And thank you, Susan. Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for the Michigan Works agencies is really to use the time right now as the proposals work their way towards approval to strengthen existing partnerships, but to look to establish new partnerships in your community. You are and you need to continue to be the resource in your community for employers and job seekers. But you can't go it alone, right? You must also partner with community, education, labor, and employer groups. The ARP proposals significantly increase resources for some of our most effective programs and services. Going Pro Talent Fund and apprenticeship expansion. With both of these expansions are really emphasized through the lens of equity. That means we need to cast a broader net. We need to connect with new employers that have good jobs and need talent to stay here in Michigan and to expand in Michigan. But it also means equity in the pipeline. Job seekers who may not currently know about you or the services, but in connecting and participating in these programs, it will certainly change the trajectory of their lives. And this is so impactful for not only them, but their families as well. With the Everybody In and the education and employment, really focused on high school completion, those proposals, we know, and I know you know how critical high school completion is for laying a strong foundation, how much wages improve once you obtain that equivalency, and how doors to future training to the post-secondary training, helping us achieve 60 by 30 and good jobs really becomes more of a reality. So this is also going to require strengthening those existing partnerships with adult education providers and looking to establish new partnerships with educational providers and employers who are going to be the ones that are going to ultimately provide a job for these individuals. Excuse me. So again, be the resource in your community, but also partner with others who are looking to achieve the same desired outcomes. And right at the end of the day, that's a good job with great wages and benefits.
Okay. So before I turn it over to questions from everybody that's participating in today's event, I do have one last question for you, but I do want to remind everybody who's participating, if you have questions for us, we do have some time at the end of this panel discussion for some questions from you. So please, any questions you have, add it to the chat and we will try to get to your question. But my last question for everybody on the Leo team is, if you had one call to action or one takeaway for the MWAs that are here today, what would that be? And I'm going to start with Kerry because she's at the top of my screen.
Great question. I think a couple of things to highlight in some of the comments. One is, yes, this is an incredibly exciting time to build the future for our state and our communities. And yes, unprecedented in our lifetimes, investment coming in, but our success is contingent on partnership and interweaving our programs to help support Michiganders and the folks that we're able to attract to move to our state. So just want to mention that I'm really excited to welcome your CEO, Ryan Hunt, to Michigan State Workforce Development Board later this week. And we're going to talk about how we can further partner on wraparound services to support students, adult learners that are in our Reconnect and Futures for Frontliners program. So I think this is just an example of partnerships, how we can remove barriers for the success of our state.
Josh, what's your challenge from MEDC?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what I would say the call to action would be is to think about the long-term success and opportunity that we have for Michigan in every decision that we're making in this unique opportunity that we have right now. So some of the choices that we make in the next year to 18 months, we know are going to be what we're still going to be thinking about in terms of the next generation of Michiganders. And that's what I try to think about. I have four sons under the age of 8 years old, and I think about the actions that we're taking. What are we doing right now to build a successful and resilient Michigan economy so that Michigan is one of the most successful states coming out of the challenges from the pandemic? And so making the choices now that set us up for resilient and equitable economy so that 20 years from now, we look back and see we made the most of this unique and challenging moment that we're in today.
Thanks, Josh. And Kim, from the prosperity lens, what is your challenge?
I would say that I would really encourage our Michigan Works agencies to really center equity as a principle that we value in all of our work. There is just no doubt that there is a lack of equity as it relates to our employment landscape. There has never been, since the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics started collecting data, African Americans have never had less than double the amount of unemployment as our white peers. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge that there's a problem. That's the first step. And then also, this is beyond, although we are working so hard and we really believe in having workers who are prepared for future jobs through efforts like 60 by 30, ensuring that they have those post-secondary credentials. Even with those credentials, the unemployment rate, racial disparity is still in play. In fact, a Black college degree holder is 65 times more likely to be unemployed than a white college degree holder. We have to acknowledge those realities and really look at in our communities, what are stakeholders doing? What are you doing to make sure that our partners are really setting measurable goals, hiring and retention targets, and then evaluating our success with that lens? Are we lowering the unemployment rate, which is a great thing to do, but it's also important that we also close that racial gap in unemployment. So that would be something that I would really think as a takeaway with this great opportunity that we have with ARP. We have an opportunity to transform our state, and I think we need to really focus on doing it in an equitable way.
Thank you, Kim. Stephanie.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think when it comes to a call to action, be bold. You represent hope for so many individuals in your community, particularly those individuals, as Kim, Kim kind of highlighted, have been hardest hit by the pandemic, individuals who are too frequently marginalized or altogether left behind. We know that the reality is the pandemic has interrupted all of our service delivery models, but we must continue to innovate and find ways to engage customers, to get them into our programs and services. Those who need services the most, they must be aware of what is available and how they avail themselves. So we're working to provide additional outreach tools for your usage, but we also realize that you'll need to take those tools and customize them for your unique services and programs. Again, I sound probably a little bit like a broken record, but existing and new partnerships play a key role in ensuring that we can really implement these new programs and achieve the desired outcomes. So who are the new partners that you're going to engage with? Start making your list today and preparing for your introduction meetings or calls. Success will certainly depend on you using your existing or traditional resources to braid with these new fundings. You'll use those existing funding to remove barriers and customize services, not only for the individual, but for the employer that needs talent. And as you implement, scale, and have success, please don't keep those to yourself. Share your successes, your best practices with your peers and with us. But the same on the challenges, right? We're ready to assist where we can, where challenges crop up. So Susan, again, I would say be bold because your services do change lives.
Okay, thanks everybody for that. And we've got some great questions, so we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. This first question I'm going to turn over to Kerry, and we've got a couple of questions that are sort of along this same line, and it is asking what the state is doing to better connect with the K through 12 education community, especially high schools, to help facilitate 60 by 30 and developing a skilled workforce in general. Stephanie may also want to touch on this as well, but this person is stating that, in their opinion, and I think many share this, that there is still too much disconnect with career counselors. So Kerry and Stephanie, if you want to take a minute or two on a response.
Yes, happy to. First and foremost, I know I always like to keep things real. I know sometimes it's challenging when you look to state government and are they coordinating with themselves? So the answer is we are, and we're having really great conversations with the Michigan Department of Education and further integrating and ensuring that our initiatives are plugged in, whether that's from STEM initiatives that I hope you all are hearing this at home. MEDC has a STEM initiative. STEM is actually the My STEM Council's house at Leo, and then also connected to MDE. So there's a lot of integration and connection to our key strategies to help move our state forward. And obviously CTE programs are as well. I would just note, I want to share a story from Nicole Sherrod Freeman, who sits on our state workforce board. I know many of you know her. But kids want to do what they know. And like, for instance, I grew up a household of 2 public school teachers. I wanted to be a teacher. My mom then told me over my dead body, separate talk show. But the
My mother
importance
said
is, yeah. The importance is, how do we up our game in exposing students to career opportunities? And agree, there's disconnects with counselors. We're working closely with MCAN, the Michigan College Access Network, who works with school districts across the state, again, cultivating those opportunities in post-secondary development. So more work to be done, but we need to be innovative and connect to students where they are. And I know I still try to learn all the apps, but I know there's a lot of innovative technology pieces that we should be looking forward to. And come to our workforce development board meeting, because we're going to have a presentation on that. Stephanie, what did I miss?
I think great points, Kerry. I think tool-wise, right? Pathfinder, that is the award-winning Pathfinder. It's going through a refresh right now. Really, it's a tool for the career counselor. It's a tool for the student. It's a tool for the parent. And actually, it's a tool for a job seeker who may be looking to get back into work or change their careers. Refresh, a lot of really good information, data-driven, allows them to kind of identify different careers. But also on Pure Michigan Talent Connect, we've added another career outlook tool to engage individuals. But again, right, we have to get the word out to counselors. We're promoting it. We've created toolkits for the counselor, for the teacher in the school, so that they can best utilize the tool, tell them what's out there, tell them how they can use it. But if they don't know about it, they're not going to use it. Help carry that message for us as a system, as an individual. I have a senior. Guess what was on the agenda for the first 2 weeks? Career counseling. I mortified her because I emailed the teacher. Here's the Pathfinder toolkit. Hey, have you seen the career outlook that LMI just put out? And guess what? I got screenshots from my daughter of the Pathfinder up in the school. But again, I felt a responsibility. I felt a duty to say, I need to make sure that everyone has these tools. And that starts with the school in my backyard.
Yeah, and that's something that we all can do. We all can play that role. Okay, I'm going to ask Josh to take a stab at this next question, but I'm going to combine kind of 2 thoughts. And I'm going to have you answer this, because this is something that we have discussed in terms of economic development. So is there, or will there be, any initiatives to attract talent from other states being affected negatively by climate change? And so, Josh, I know there have been some higher level conversations around economic development and using Michigan's attractions as it relates to what's happening in other states with climate change. But then, in addition to that, can you also talk about generally what we're doing to attract talent to Michigan?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and it really starts with making sure that we have the vibrant communities for people to live in, and that ranges from our great downtowns, like where I'm sitting right now in Detroit, to Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor and others, as well as our smaller communities across the state, and a lot of the recreational opportunities that people can access in the Upper Peninsula and other parts of northern Michigan that they wouldn't be able to access in other parts of the country. And so it needs to begin with us having great places for people to live. And I think that this aspect of the housing work that MISTA is leading is also critically important, because we have to have the great communities, and we also have to have great housing options for people to live in. Secondly, is we need to continue to build off of the work that we're doing as a state around making sure that we're seeing growth in key industries, in industries of the future, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of technology, but also advanced manufacturing, automotive and mobility, and research and development are also critical opportunities for us to see growth, as well as seeing professional services work happen that more and more can be done on a remote basis. So it has to start with those fundamentals around housing, communities, and growing businesses here in the state. We have met early level conversations, both in terms of what we can do to make sure that we position Michigan as a leading state in terms of the impacts of climate change, both in terms of us making sure that we are leading in terms of what we are doing to protect the environment, while also highlighting the lack of natural disasters and other challenges that Michigan will face and does face compared to other states, and making sure that we're looking, again, like I mentioned earlier, to the long term. In terms of specific incentives or anything like that, at this point, there isn't any state level incentive, but there are some communities that have launched incentives to provide grants or other support for individuals moving into their community for remote work, including the Benton Harbor area has done that through Cornerstone Alliance. The Battle Creek area has done that through Battle Creek Unlimited. And those are initiatives that we continue to monitor and see how they're working on the local level so that we can look at the overall ability of the MEDC and our partners to look at multiple options to continue to make sure people are seeing Michigan not just as a place to travel to, but as a place to locate in because of the strong communities that we have and the strong opportunities for careers.
Okay, I think Josh has touched on a lot of responses that are relative to a question that we've gotten about what young people want as they launch careers and families. Affordable housing, public transportation, job flexibility. So I think Josh has hit on a lot of those things, about young people wanting great communities. I just want to add childcare. That childcare is a critical issue across many communities, and I think that it is something that young people look at when they think about where they're going to settle. And just mention that the governor has proposed using up to $1.4 billion for childcare programs. And, that proposal has the potential for impacting hundreds of thousands of families and households in Michigan and making childcare more affordable. Okay, so I want to get to this last question, and I'm going to pass this off to Kim, although I think others on our panel might have thoughts. But we have a question, just a very simple question, Kim. How do we attract people of color to the programs that the state has and the programs that our local Michigan Works agencies have?
Yeah, I think what Stephanie has said repeatedly, I'll just be another broken record here to say that just partnerships, I think, are so important. I think that there are so many organizations that have their ear to the ground, that know what the barriers are and the unique barriers are in different communities, and that prevent people of color from seeking work. We know that in many cases, and when we look at that unemployment disparity, a lot of it is because some people have just given up on employment altogether. Certainly, we have a serious problem with criminal justice reform, where we have to really have some very strong strategies for returning citizens, for those who are justice involved, so that they have opportunities, because that is taking a lot of people out of the employment landscape. So I just think listening to the people in those communities who understand the barriers, who work with people every day, who live with people who are struggling, is really probably the best approach when you're talking about how you attract people of color to these great services. Because once they're linked in, we know they will have great success, but they have to know about them first.
Thank you, Kim. And I think that I see we have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask a kind of a technical question. Stephanie, I don't know if maybe you can answer this. Can the MWAs get access to Excello or the other career exploration tools that local schools use? So when we get those individuals through our doors, we have that information to.
So I'm not familiar with that program. I think that's an interesting question. I think it's something we can take back and we can look at. I think for those that aren't aware, we are going through an RFP right now for the One-Stop Management Information System, OSMIS, really to make it as user-friendly and to be able to have all the tools and resources that you need to effectively, serve a customer. So I think this is something that I'll certainly take back to the team. And I know many of them are on participating in the conference. So they're probably hearing about this real time, which is fantastic. So because in that new RFP and OSMIS, it's also for the ability to be innovative and flexible and take advantage and have other systems layer onto it as they come on, because we know technology changes so quickly. So Susan, appreciate the question. We can look forward. I think we would like to be able to partner and layer on, to get the best information while also not having, a lot of different programs that duplicate resources and services. And quite frankly, the federal law says, right, we can't use our services for multiple systems like that. But let's see what we can do to potentially tap into to have that really good data and save some time, up front with all that information coming with the student.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. So I think we've hit our time. I just want to thank everybody from our team for participating in this panel today and for your great thoughts. And then Ryan, I want to thank you and all of our local MWA partners for the time to be with you today. And I think you know where to reach all of us. So, if we're missing the mark somewhere, or if you've got some great idea that we all need to be talking about, please, reach out through us, through Ryan or through Stephanie, and, let's get together and discuss what we need to discuss. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you, Director Corbin, and thank you to the panelists, Stephanie, Kerry, Josh, and Kim, for joining us for that wonderful panel discussion. We sincerely appreciate your time this morning. Be sure to tune in at 11:30 for today's keynote speaker, Tracy Brown. Tracy is trained in the body language of deception detection, and she will share her secrets with you so you will be able to better detect fraud. Just as a quick reminder as well, please feel free to visit the exhibitor booths and to take a few minutes to network virtually with your colleagues. You can interact with live exhibitors in their booths. You can also be randomly paired with another conference member for a 3-minute networking chat. It was great to see a few of you yesterday during that networking feature. I thought it was a great experience. You can also privately chat with any member from the conference via the chat function. Again, a big thank you to our exhibitors who helped make this annual conference possible. Thank you for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Enjoy.